Yeah, that was we're busy people. We're not done.
Good, everyone. A little bit of a early meeting this month, but get it done before the holidays. And with that, let's move forward and into our meeting. I trust Jim has read the minutes.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. And then with that, we'll move to Michael, CEO report.
Well, good morning. We've got a lot to report, and but we're going to be quick. First of all, I want to congratulate Jessica, who was appointed by the chair of the Board of Supervisors to be our representative on the Workforce Investment Board. And the other good news is that at that meeting, they approved the resolution to instruct the IDA to transfer the funding to us for the purchase of the Sesternino property up on 9H. Andy and I are working on the closing this week. So we do have the Board Supervisors approval, and the this board, or the IDA board, approved transferring the money upon approval by the Board of Supervisors. There are two projects that Jessica will update us on that Board of Supervisors also passed resolutions. I guess the more important news is you have two resumes of Stephen Vandenberg and Chris Brown. Stephen has been hired to work with Martha to take Lauren Tranner's place, and Chris Brown has been hired to be our affordable housing coordinator. Martha and Dave and I had interviewed Stephen a few weeks, about a month or so ago, and we revisited the position with him in the last 2 weeks, and he has agreed, and we're very excited about him joining the organization. Chris, the review process for the affordable housing director was we put out several ads all over the place, and we got 12 resumes. And we interviewed 5 candidates by Zoom. We brought 2 candidates in for in-person interviews, and then the search committee initial search was myself, Jessica, Supervisor Ron Knott, and Supervisor Brenda Adams. And then when we settled in on Chris Brown, we had a final in-person interview with the 4 of us, as well Matt Morrell, chair of the Board of Supervisors, and our chair, Dave Finger. So we're very excited about it. Chris is starting the day 17th, the day after Martin Luther King Day. And I'm not sure exactly when Steve is starting, but after the first of the year. I did ask Chris to give as much notice as he can, because if people don't feel the employer that they're going to work for feels that way, they'll leave quickly when they find the next job. And I do think 2 weeks notice in most jobs these days is not sufficient notice, especially at holiday time. So he did give a month's notice, and that's why he won't be here till then. Broadband, a lot going on in broadband. The FCC has asked the world to challenge their list. The PSC we have been working with, as you know, since the summer to validate their list. We have the data from our consultants completed to present to the PSC this week. They told me, don't worry about getting it in this week, because we just sent the information that we gave you in August to all the other counties, asking them to respond by January 16th. But we're going to get it in anyway, so they have a sense of what they're going to see from other counties. But I can't imagine if you're getting this with less than 30 days notice to respond to.
It's a lot of work.
We spent time and money on it that will put us at the head of the list. We are working with the county planning office because the FCC lists are in a very complicated download. And you'll remember Don Meltz, who, when he was in the private sector, helped us with all the GIS mapping. He now works for the county planning department, and the county planning director instructed him to help us do that. We're also coordinating this on a regional basis for the FCC challenge with the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. Dave and I had a conference call with them last Friday. So that process is moving forward. On the housing front, with the selection of a affordable housing coordinator who will be a CEDC employee, but will also be the staff person for the affordable housing task force, and Supervisor Knott and Supervisor Adams are the co-chair of that. And there's 12 people on that board. We expect to hold the first meeting in mid-January and get that process started. And it's going to be based on the Pattern for Progress report, the presentations and feedback that we received from the countywide housing forum that CEDC hosted last spring, and also continued work with Pattern for Progress to provide support. It's not going to be easy. There's 18 towns with 18 different sets of home rule zoning and planning and community standards and the like. But we're going to try to find some commonality, and it will also include getting grant money for people to upgrade their existing homes so that they can stay in them and they're not forced to sell them and then end up having them owned by some corporation that leases out houses or people who use them for.
That's an important component too, because most people think of affordable housing as, plus towers and all such things. It's nice it's extending that way.
Well, and the purpose of the group, based on the Board of Supervisors direction us, is people who are at the median income. And the median income in Columbia County is $68,000 per household. And we're looking to focus in on housing options for people of $70,000 to $130,000 income. And when you look at the fact that more than 50% of our businesses are service businesses, those are the people who rank and file people in the county who are working for the businesses that we all benefit from good services and professional guidance. Solar, we are continuing to work with the town of Copake. They are still in a dispute with the developer of the 400-acre project. Assemblymember Barrett did introduce legislation that would put more restrictions on what it allows the town to put more restrictions on than the current law allows. Right now, for large solar projects over 20 megawatts, there's a state siting board, which are 3 people appointed by the state and 2 people from the town where the project is located. And most of those votes are 3-2. So, there's once, and the town had to get involved in negotiating with the developer because if they didn't get some accommodation during that process, there would be carte blanche from the approval from the state under the current law. We administer for the county solar project pilots, 5 megawatts and under. We're now up to 10 of those projects, and we're continuing to work with the county. Many of the towns are now passing legislation to provide greater setbacks and other types of zoning requirements. And several developers have said, it's going to be impossible for them to move forward with their project. In addition to those items, I do want to congratulate Sean Sawyer and Olana. The Lieutenant Governor came last week, and announced a $25 million award for the Frederick Church Visitor Center. And congratulations.
Well, for the whole constellation, but thank you, whole constellation of projects,
Yeah.
that we're working on. Yeah, that's 15 million in private funds and 10 million through the state.
And when also, I think I may have announced at the last meeting, in the last round of consolidated funding applications, Governor awarded $68 million statewide, about $3.2 million in the capital region. And Columbia County was awarded 4 projects totaling 2.2. I don't point out often that we got 54% of the money that came to the region. Or did I? No. The largest project was $1.5 million for Pike's Nest to build a zero energy campus down adjacent to on the waterfront, and it will help them expand and the programming that they're doing. There was $340,000 for the Crandall Theater in Chatham, and there was $67,000 for Hudson Hall, the annual marketing for their jazz festival, and $20,000 for the town of New Lebanon to be able to work on a Main Street grant program. And Jessica will go over the 3 or 4 state grant programs, including the Forward New York. I want to thank Michael Malinsky for getting us where the technology finally works, and I also wanted to just be sure that we touched base on the clock estate project. They have a community development block grant, which we're administering to the county for $375,000. They're the distillery up on Route 27 in Claverick. It started out as a $4 million distillery, and now it's close to 20. And it's quite, in the spring, we should all kick up there. It'll be as a group, it'll be a public meeting. But I think, at their grand opening or groundbreak or ribbon cutting, we can all attend, and is a phenomenal place with a tremendous view. They are doing they finance through the county IDA, but because CEDC is the administrator of the Office of Community Renewal Block Grant, and CLOC wants to lease equipment through Farm Credit Leasing, which is their lender. They've asked through the Office of Community Renewal documents, the state gives the money to the county gives the money to us, and we give the money to them. We have a blanket lien on all equipment, and there was some question as to whether, if they don't own the equipment and it's leased equipment, whether we really do have a lien on leased equipment that's owned by someone else. But just in case, Farm Credit wanted CEDC to subordinate its interest and release the blanket UCC filing with respect to the equipment that they'll be leasing from Farm Credit. I said that I didn't see an issue with that, but that it should have board approval because it totals $222,000. Also, we did ask them to provide us with a list that shows that none of the equipment that we have the lien on and need the lien on for the Office of Community Renewal Grant, where they're using the money to buy a list of equipment, is included in what they're asking us to release. So I do have a resolution, Mr. Chairman, to provide a release on our blanket UCC for the specific equipment that that CLOC Estates will be leasing from our family.
We need a resolution for that.
I don't want to release the lien for $220,000 when I have $5,000 spending authority.
Okay. Any discussion? Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? It's carried.
Thank you. The main thing was to be sure they weren't, the liens weren't on the same property. And Andy was helpful on that as well. That concludes my report. I certainly want to thank all of you for your support during the course of the year. With a staff of 8 now, starting January 1, we're going to be a little different organization. And fortunately, we'll get a little bit of the skill sets that Jessica learned working at the state of New York at the Office of General Services. And we're looking forward to putting some process into place because you need better communication and you need better efficiencies with a larger organization.
I think we want to thank the entire staff for a very successful year. But most, right at the top of that list is our chairman, is our President Michael. And thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you. It's a team effort and we can't do it on our own. And we're very fortunate to be able to fill all those spots in this economy and recognizing that while our salaries are competitive for the public sector, we're still a little bit behind on the private sector. Moving right into the treasurer's report, unless there are any questions. Again, we're at 11 months. We're $116,000 over, $116,000 of net income, which is $145,000 over net income. But we're also gross total income is $149,000. You'll remember that the county has given us an additional 85 and 50 or 135,000. 85,000 is our share of the 150 that we received for the Columbia Forward program. The chamber gets $65,000 a year out of that 150, and they advanced us the entire $50,000 this year for the grants that we are making when we issue loans. And as you may recall, Martha has the ability to provide a borrower up to $25,000 with a 10% grant. So if you borrow $25,000, you leave here with $27,500 and you only owe $25,000. And we have done $14,000 of those loans. We do have our membership letters out, and we're up to about $12,000 in the first week and a half. And we feel that that's good based on the projection. We sent out about 250 letters that both Dave and I personally signed. And we did put out yesterday to 3,000 people e-blast as to how you can become part of the success of the county's economic development engine. And it'll be interesting to see how that works. And we do have the fully set up for the credit card processing. And I think we have two $2,500 checks in already, one from Ginsburg Food and the other from Finger Insurance. So we're working through that. I do think that Kat and I have been working to get some of the categories cleaned up. I think, with broadband, we were $30,000 under budget for consulting fees, but we were $30,000 over budget on new initiatives. So we did move the $30,000 of consulting on broadband to the consulting category because it's no longer a new initiative. Right? We've been doing it for several years. We do have the auditors coming in on January 12th, I believe it is, to do the pre-audit meeting with UHY. And there are no questions. The balance sheet shows us that we're up $456,000, but you'll remember 400 of that was because the SBA granted us additional funds this year. So it's pretty static, but it's within budget, and we didn't count on the county money. So when we looked at we're ahead of budget, and you match it to the county money, you can see where it's coming from. I think the real positive thing is that we had budgeted loan interest income of $60,000 through November, and we're at $65,700. And earlier in the year, we were trailing a little bit on that number, but that's evidence of the work that Martha does to ensure that the pipeline is full and that we continue to close loans. When you have a 5 to 7 year amortization on loans, if you don't get $250,000 to $350,000 a year out, your portfolio starts to drop. Obviously, our goal is to ensure that even with a 15% loss rate, and we've had a 0% loss rate this year, the fund is at a size where it could sustain itself forever on an annualized basis, which I think was where we wanted to get it. And it's just over 3.2 million. And Martha's going to be looking to request more funding from the IDA as well. And right now, between the two loan funds, we have $1,891,000 outstanding, and we have $1,006,000 to lend. We did have a request from the, this isn't for approval, but just for socialization of the idea. 7th Street Park, there's a Friends of 7th Street Park that's working with the city to undertake a restoration of that park to bring it back to perhaps what it looked like when it was first built. They had applied for a state grant, but because of a technicality, because of the IT system, they didn't get their application in. And so the state's got them in the round for the next round. Assemblymember Barrett was able to get them the $150,000 they were looking for to be able to get started with the design and preliminary planning through the dormitory authority. Issue is that it's a reimbursable grant. So this not-for-profit doesn't have a track record because it was just formed in the last year or so to work on this project. And they are looking to see if CEDC would consider a $150,000 loan where it would be reimbursed at the when they submit the paperwork on the grant. We've done that in the past for Sally Baker up in Philmont. We did something similar, but not exactly for Hudson Development Corporation. So my first thought was to sit down with Hudson Development Corporation because they have $3 million in the bank from the sale of the CAS project, and they're still in the process of finalizing their strategic plan and how they want how they want to move forward. I suggested that we split it. The mayor has indicated that the city is fully behind this project. We have a state grant where we would require some administrative oversight to be sure that they're spending the money on eligible reimbursable expenses. But we would oversee that process, and we would also disperse the money directly to the vendor if we were to do this. And we'd have an assignment of the disbursement from the dormitory authority upon completion of the paperwork. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I think it's something we would really want to think about. I think that most state grants are reimbursable and for capital expense. So I don't know that we do have and it's short-term money, and with lending to a not-for-profit, I don't know I don't know that you can get 5% interest, but maybe that's the answer here. But I did want to get the discussion started because it's not something I'd want to. They are able to get the dormitory authority grant in January or February, not have you had a chance to think about it.
And Mike, the number's 150 split 2 ways.
Well, I don't know that. The HTC board doesn't meet, and so what I said to Misty McGee, Misty McGee, who's their new director, that I would raise the idea, but not ask for a consensus today, but just to trying to think. Kathleen, Cananuga's wife, and Dorothy Pyle, who is Tom DiPietro's wife, are the co-chairs of the committee. And their plans are
I think both would resist that definition, but.
that way. But that's how I know.
Yes, I
Did you say Hudson Development Corporation was not ready yet though?
Well, Martha's on their board. They did a strategic plan.
They haven't done it yet. They have not completed it.
Yeah, so they don't know whether they want to set up a loan fund. We told them we've got $1.6 million here to ready to lend, and Hudson's included. So, do you really want to set up a de novo loan fund? And
So, like, I'm sorry, just on the pops, as they call themselves, I mean, I think it's a really, really important project, and it could really spur, be adding momentum into Hudson's rejuvenation in the public spaces and everything. I just, as a nonprofit director who manages these reimbursable grants all the time, and we always have this issue, and, we fortunately over 50 years have developed the resources to be able to do that, but, largely through commercial bank relationships that we have. But again, we have no assets per se to provide for collateral. So it's really on the longevity of our track record. So I can understand why they don't have that. I mean, I guess I would just, could you say what you said about the grant administration is the big
I
hurdle on these things?
What I told the
because,
assembly members,
it can easily take a year of back and forth with one of these entities to get your money back.
what I said to the assembly member, that I wanted to meet with the dormitory authority staff. I wanted to understand the nature of the grant. I wanted to understand what the reimbursable expenses were. And I
mean,
and I told-
is there an MWBE percentage?
20%.
Oh, right, exactly.
And I also told Catherine that we would administer the grant, and we might take a small fee for that, but that monies would only be dispersed by us directly to the vendor, so that someone doesn't say, "Oh, let's go do this," and it's not an eligible expense.
Mhm.
And it's similar to the way we manage the grants for the city or the county on the Office of Community Renewal.
I say, when my business was on the corner Park Place and Warren Street, I was part of one of those committees. There's been a lot of false starts trying to get that park up and going. So I'm a little hesitant about that until I start seeing them, walk their talk a little bit. I helped spearhead getting the smoking ban in the park, and I planted tulips around the fountain in my time there. But unless I see them actually starting to get their hands dirty and start doing something there, I'm hesitant to start throwing money at them until they.
They have
Just
been
because-
doing various cleanup projects. They redid all the benches and everything. I'm
They
not.
took the fence off.
They removed the
Yeah.
county
Yeah.
welcome center finally after years of trying. to get that.
Well,
And they have a design, right?
I think we would need to
They
report-
Contracted with our landscape architect, and they have. the design.
We would need to have them come in and make a presentation. We would have, I'd have to, update you on what we've.
And I think a challenge of that is to see how it's coordinated with the whole city and other parks. I mean, it's it's part of the whole program.
And we may be, we
And what
may,
about CSX, and have they managed all of that? And-
we may luck out. We may luck out and Hudson Development wants to do it, so.
Seems like a good project for Hudson Development. That's my
I agree.
opinion.
They got
Well,
the money.
Yeah, and I think, I wouldn't want to have brought it here without telling them that I was gonna bring it up to you.
Do they want to do it and just are
They
not
don't,
prepared
they're
to?
not, Misty's been there 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah.
And, I think, she had to talk to her board leadership and then her own board. But, it was, since it's out there, that they're gonna get this grant and they're talking to us, I didn't want this group to, you hear enough on the street in Columbia County?
And Mike, I just want to point out, I think we've done 3 of these bridge loans when we were expecting a reimbursement. I think what we did is we charged a closing cost. We did charge interest and we forgave it at the time that the money was reimbursed to us. Another one was earmarked by Dee Barrett, and that was for the Hudson VFW.
Remember, we did a $15,000 loan, which was in the loan committee's authority. I think we reported it, but it was a veterans group that had received a grant to upgrade a cemetery, and we did it the urgency was, it was a month before Memorial Day.
So you need no action on that right now.
And I think a lot will depend on a lot of things, but I know they were very disappointed. There was a glitch in how they understood the process of submitting the grant. And they thought they had submitted it, but they didn't get a receipt back from the state. And 2 weeks later, they got a letter saying that their application was denied.
How much were they asking for?
Several hundred, I think 500,000.
It was, I think.
Yeah.
And they also have been conducting fundraisers.
They're doing their own fundraising. But I think Sean is absolutely right, in the sense that, when I was at CEG, what we would do is go and get a bank loan and assign the grant proceeds to the bank. And, but with an organization that has no professionals, no paid staff, I would not be, if it was something that the board wanted to consider at a future date, would not be something where I would just write a check to $150,000 and they put it in their bank and spend it as they like.
Right.
And it's not because of any fear that they would misspend it, but that it might not be spent for the purpose that will ensure that we get repaid.
There's just a lot of work to do the paperwork correctly, a lot of things to read through and understand. And if you're doing it the first time, you're bound to make mistakes or, and regardless, it will take a long time, longer time than anyone anticipates to get that
And
reimbursement.
I think, we also have to be sure that the city's 100% behind the project. Okay, so
So we need a motion to accept the treasurer's report, unless there's any discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
it's nice to be the place people think you can get things done at, but sometimes.
So we have a couple of letters in the audit engagement letter.
Right, we have the UHY annual audit engagement letter. There's two because we have to do this second audit because of the percentage of federal monies that we're receiving. And because the SBA program upped us to $230,000. We have budgeted for that increase. Last year, we had not budgeted for it, and it was an additional $7,000. So I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, that the board approve the two engagement letters that are in their packets.
So the 2022 audit engagement letter needs a motion to accept.
I move we accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Carried. And then the second one, which is the one for the
The peer review.
the tax engagement letter. Any discussion? And a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. So moving right along, Audit and Finance Committee did not meet. Executive Committee did meet. It was basically I don't want to call it informal because it was a legal meeting, but we basically just discussed our finances and where they come from, how they come from, our dues, and where they come from. And
I think one thing was the whole discussion of the fact that we worked really hard to get down from 70% government funding to 50%. And now with the county coming back to us, asking us to undertake these projects, which I see as fee-for-service consulting projects,
right.
whether or not we were getting away again from our mission of being a private, not-for-profit organization and being an extension of government. I think that it's positive that the county sees us as a place where, they can get things that are important to economic development, both broadband and housing, worked on, where they don't get into the complexity of civil service jobs and the opportunity to hire, people who and just the complexity of government. And if you look at why local development corporations were formed, they were formed so that county transfer land to this group and we could sell it without going, if it met the mission of our purpose. Or we could undertake projects and, we still have to comply with our own procurement rules, which requires public bid or at least 3 proposals when we're doing projects over a certain dollar amount. But, are we taking we're not taking an appropriation. We're basically engaged for a fee for service
Contract.
contract.
There's no doubt we're an important component to the county. But again, it's
Excuse what we tried to
excuse what we're
do.
trying to do a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. That's about it for the executive committee meeting. Governance and nominating did not meet and loan didn't meet. However, Martha, I believe, has a portfolio.
Sure. 12:15. Oh, I did want to update the loan committees at 7-11 trying to three, maybe October and November. Alula Woodworks is a little bit behind and we're working with them. They're chipping away at their balances. Heavenly Essentials is actually now 2 months behind. Even $100 is a real struggle, but we're working with the owner. She's closed her business. Who else do we have on the list? Phoenix, some of you may remember the name John Sailing. That has come in like clockwork for years and years, and suddenly it isn't. So we're working with the owner and trying to figure out what's happening there. And that one is worrisome because it is a large loan. The balance is $60,000. And finally, we have Alula once again. They have 2 loans with us. Yeah, I think that. I did want to point out, I ran a report for our loans for 2022. I had previously reported on the SBA microloans that it closed by the end of September. That's how the SBA tracks them. But for the year, we had a loan closing in December. For the year, we have made 35 loans to 23 different businesses, and the amount that we loaned was just over $800,000.
Well, congratulations, Martha.
Very good.
And it takes us a long way to being an evergreen loan fund.
Yeah.
And it's enabled us to raise from $60,000 to 75 for next year's interest. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we do need approval on that.
Yes, we do.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Thank you, Martha. Workforce and Education did meet, and I'll turn that over to Ruth, but also to Dr. Drummer. So I don't know what order you want to go in.
Carly, I'm happy to let you lead. You're in the room. We did meet and continued the discussion about the value of the pillar and next steps. And I don't know, Mike, also if you want to share anything about the date, the January date, or Carly's going to do that.
Sure. So the committee is really eager to help with partnerships that will be pipelines to the workforce. And of course, Columbia Green Community College does this on a daily basis. So what we're going to do is 3 people from the college who have different perspectives about the pipelines are going to be presenting to the committee on January 12th. They're going to be Chris Nardone, who is our Director of Workforce New York, Amanda Carter, who is our Director of Community Engagement and Professional Development, and Matthew Kenny, who is a faculty member, but he's heading up our Achieving the Dream initiative to build partners. So the 3 of them are going to give their perspectives on what we've been doing since really a year ago and show where we are and what we've accomplished. And the other guests whom we're inviting in addition to committee members will be Dr. Gladys Cruz, Jim Church, the 2 chamber presidents, Bill Gerlach and Pat Geske, and James Hammonds from Green Economic. I think did I get all that, And then from there, once we've had this initial meeting and had a discussion, I think that'll give us a blueprint for moving forward, and then we can open it up to a larger community.
Carly,
And
Time after that?
8:30 on January 12th.
Ruth, I'll coordinate with you so you have their email addresses so you can do the invite as the chair of the committee.
And we will be meeting at the college in the Professional Academic Center, room 614.
Thank you both. very
Thank you.
much.
Yeah.
The committee also welcomes Mike
Um,
Linsky as a member, by the way. Mike, Linsky, thank you.
Strategic planning? Mike? or,
I'm gonna turn that over to
Jessica?
Jessica, and
Yep.
I know she has some other things to wind in,
Sure.
weave into strategic planning.
Sure, so
Yeah.
we are working on still updating based on a lot of the discussions that have happened at meetings as well as committee meetings. I think where we landed is the pillars are remaining the same, it's sort of the underlying objectives and updating those. The last time they were updated was 2019. So a goal is to get that sort of wrapped up before and in prep of the annual meeting. So you'll have sort of a strategic plan to review and approve going forward at that annual meeting. So still, if anyone probably reaching out and sort of any feedback on any of that, or if you need any information about the old plan, but looking to collect and kind of get some drafts out to you guys soon. On the projects, just to talk a little bit about what Mike had mentioned, the CDBG grant money, right? That's a huge thing we talked about at the executive committee, thinking about funding that comes in from the county and sort of trying to make sure that our balance is all of a sudden not, we're so much more county funded and keeping that balance low. An opportunity is to, where do we have opportunity to bring in additional revenue? And that is through, in some cases, other grant funding where there's administrative money that we can take to administer the money, and that's a revenue source for us. I think it's something, as Mike mentioned about the park and the DASME money is, I think, I'm not sure, and we'll have to look into that, is to see, is there even administrative money available in that? There's a lot of work, as you had mentioned, to administer that type of program for the, and to help them with that.
And what we've been seeing, the grants from the state will approve is $15,000, so it's real money.
That's on the, so the community
Yeah.
development grant
Yeah.
ones are great, because it comes with that pot of money for the economic development projects. So we've been working pretty closely with a couple of businesses. Blueberry Chill, which Mike mentioned, was approved. The county is going to support an application to the state for that fund, that round of funding. And Blueberry Chill is, if you're familiar with the old Backwater Grill restaurant. That is, so there's a new owner. It's not open, but she's bought the property and is looking to basically demolish the building and build new, a new restaurant, which will be under the legal entity of Blueberry Chill, but we doing business as Vida del Lago, quite a long lake. So with that project, the reason why it makes so much sense for it to be a community development block grant eligible for that money is there's a huge investment she has to make in sewer septic system. The old restaurant apparently was feeding right into the lake. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done. She's been working with Department of Energy Conservation to build a system. And it's basically what is needed is it's going to be its own treatment plant. So it's about $250,000 to build just a septic system for the new property. So that's where the community development block grant comes in, can help with furniture and fixtures to sort of offset some of those costs. Some other properties we've been working, or some other businesses that are interested in that funding. There's a couple of them. So as we start to sort of work a little bit closer, Martha and I working with them as well to sort of weed it out to make sure that they're eligible and it's a good source. It's a good funding source for them.
We want to market these so that, it's not perceived that just because you have a loan with us and, or just because you didn't hear about it. We have sent out information to all the supervisors so that they can include it in their, most of them have a town newsletter or website. And, we're working to ensure that there's broad base of awareness of these grant programs.
Right, so there's a public hearing at the county level specifically for the Blueberry Chill project, but the way it's written is it makes it a little bit more generic at the beginning of the public hearing to address that. It sort of is a solicitation for this program's out there, if there's businesses that would be interested in having a discussion, and then we're having the specific public hearing. I've included it all in one to address that.
And again,
concerns.
it's based on jobs, and so, you know, you have to prove that the people are in place to get the $15,000 per business, per person. Kleinkill, and then the New Lebanon project.
So Kleinkill, as you're aware, they were awarded funding for farm worker housing to replace their housing. And so they are, this award, and this is some of the problems with some of the grant money, is by the time they get to where they're able to spend money, it's 6 months after the actual award. So where we're at right now with them is working on the environmental review process. We have to actually follow the National Environmental Protection Act for this pot of money. So they were just, the county took lead agency for the NEPA process at the last Board of Supervisors meeting. So we have right now the environmental review complete and ready to get that back to the state so that they'll hopefully be able to start the project as soon as the state approves that process. And good progress so far, and they're anxious to get started so that they can demolish the old buildings and be prepped for the spring to start the construction.
Another issue too, and I hear it, is you get the grant and then we have this crazy building materials inflation, and all of a sudden the grant isn't, it doesn't match what it's gonna cost in the end, which is frustrating.
100%. So the Klein skills, I think you developing the budget over a year ago. Is
Well,
my
the
understanding.
the
So
public
you're by the
hearing
time
was,
they're ready to start.
The December 31st year-end Board of Supervisors.
And the propane, that goes up too.
No, that stays down.
It's fuel oil that goes up there.
Exactly, Michael.
Yeah. The $20,000 in New Lebanon, where that leaves.
I forgot, that was very good. So New Lebanon had applied and was awarded $20,000 from the New York Main Street program. And that's really a kickstart. So really that's the first phase in what they anticipate to be a larger project. This first $20,000 will help them do planning on their Main Street, is to say, how do I make this more of a cohesive Main Street? Right now, if you're familiar with it, I can't think of the,
Route 20.
is it Route 20? Thank you. Right down there, it's just, it's not cohesive. There's not like a walking path. It really doesn't pull. They're just desperate. You know, it's just
Right.
separate businesses across. So this funding will help them bring in, hire a consultant and help them sort of do some design, look at code, look at sort of some efforts that they should be taking. Then what they'll do after that, once they've defined sort of the plan for that Main Street, is then they'll go for the next round, which the supervisor just mentioned last week that they were thinking 2 years from now. Now she's pushing it up and hope that she'll apply for, once they define what they want to do on Main Street, is in 2023, apply for now the implementation of what is the results of this strategic planning effort that they haven't yet started yet.
And
So she's really aggressive.
And obviously, with Route 20 going through there, to be able to create a sense of place, you have to work with DOT to tamp down that. There's got to be a boulevard that you know, slow down for and
Right.
and go through. And then I guess just where we are with Columbia Forward.
Sure, so Columbia Forward, they're saying one thing, Ruth, just to follow up with you, you had asked the question, we've been working with the Germantown Committee, Economic Development Committee. They had requested we help them host a roundtable meeting in January. So after a couple of conversations with them, really defining what's the objective of this roundtable. And so the chamber and CEDC are really looking to build this as a template so that we can sort of help these economic development communities across the county sort of engage more closely with their businesses. Specifically the Germantown Economic Development Committee has asked that CEDC and chamber sort of present resources that are available to businesses, but the primary intent of the roundtable is to be an open forum for the businesses in the community to talk about what are their needs, what are their concerns, so that we can sort of build a plan with them going forward. So that we're looking at the end of January, January 26th is the meeting. So we're waiting for the beginning of the year to really get that word out to the business. I think there'll be My understanding so far is they'll be well received.
Yeah, the Germantown, because I live in Germantown, they leave a lot of businesses out.
Yeah.
So the committee is just people who are interested, and they're not so goal oriented, but they also leave major businesses out.
Yeah, so our.
So like, it would be great to
hopefully
teach them. I would love if that was part of the teaching them how to.
sort of
engage
the
in-
rest. And there's some new businesses there. I can't think of a house.
The Central House, yeah,
Yeah, so-
just got sold.
Just got sold, new
yeah,
owners,
new owners.
so looking to host the event there as a way to sort of bring together some new. But I think that's one of the benefits of having CEDC and the chamber host an event like this.
Yeah, I think
It sort of isn't 100% focused on the committee and, you know.
Yeah, the
broaden it a
committees
little
tend
bit.
to wander there, so that
Yeah.
would be great. I think it needs that help. Yeah.
Right, and from what we've heard is there's a lot of committees that are looking for the same type of assistance. So this will use as sort of hopefully a template going forward. Some other activities with Columbia Forward, we have, you know, CED staff as well as the chamber staff have a meeting first week of January to really plan out what are the activities under Columbia Forward for 2023. And what are our goals, what do we want to achieve, and really, how do we want to be able to report that to the Board of Supervisors? So I think after the first week or so of January, we'll have a really defined plan of Columbia Forward in 2023 and some strategy there. And as Mike mentioned, you know, the loans have been a huge success so far. We've got $14,000 out of the $15,000 dispersed into the community. It's been a across the board, and you know, it's not just focused in one area so far.
And the good news is that we have $36,000 available for next year in that program. And I think on Columbia Forward, we were paid by the county for the full year, but we have half of the money in a reserve account because we didn't really start it till June, which means we can carry it on out 6 months beyond the original contemplated deadline.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So with that, kind of ends our meeting. I normally have just asked at the end of the meeting if anybody has anything. Michael Malinsky has suggested, and I'm going to do it at his suggestion, that we go around the table and give everyone a chance to speak if they'd like to. Start right here with Rick.
Happy holidays, everybody. Looking forward to a calmer 2023. Get back to business.
Dr. Drummond.
Yeah, happy holidays. I can't believe it's the end of the year. I think we have a lot of good things planned for 2023 at the college. I'm really excited as we turn the calendar. I hope it too is a more calm year. I'm sure that's possible anymore, but we'll certainly give it a try.
Yeah, happy holidays, everyone. Yeah, looking forward to learning more about affordable housing. I think that's such an important hot topic, and I love all the information that I learned from here and try to pass on to the town. And I'd love to be involved in that kind of Germantown or boilerplate, like setting up and speaking and working with communities.
Jim.
I'll just say that it's a pleasure to work with all the board members and the staff here at CEDC.
Same for me, and I look forward to the next year and learning more as time goes on and more meetings happen. And I feel like I get a little more understanding each time. There's a lot of stuff that's, you know, at first kind of can go over your head or on some side of you. So it takes a little time, but I'm wishing everybody the very best for the new year.
Yeah, very good holidays to everybody, and I'm amazed how much I've learned what the CEDC does during the past several months. And I hope next year we can encourage more people in our community and the rest of the county to learn what we can give them.
Sure.
Sure, looking forward to 2023. Happy holidays, everyone. I think we're off to already a good start with, you know, already having plans for 2023.
But yeah, happy holidays. Hopefully.
Oh, I know. Jesse, you want to? Mike?
You've heard enough from me. Even I know that.
I was going to say it's been a pleasure to be here on the board for the last year and a half, and I've learned so much, and I'm glad to be part of the education and workforce committee now. And to piggyback off of what Rick said, you've learned so much over the last few months, and I feel like after my last meeting at the education committee, is like, I think we should be educating the public on what we actually do. So I'm really looking forward to next year. I think we should get the social media page for the CEDC back up and going. And maybe even start just like promoting these meetings. It'd be really nice to have some actual real public comment on there. I think that will come in time as we educate the public of what we actually do. And to see how that goes for the next year.
You weren't here for some of
In all sincerity, I did invite Linda Mussman to come back. I said, we miss you. And she said, she'll come back next year to see us.
Sarah?
Yeah, happy holidays, everybody. I'm so excited with the energy in this group right now. I mean, this table is full. We don't fit a few more people in, but that's very exciting. And I think new people, and I'm just really looking forward to next year. It's gonna be maybe not as quiet as you want. We could be dynamic here.
Captain?
Yes, happy holidays to everyone. And I do represent the IDA. And they even said before that I don't count. What I said to them is I count, but I can't vote. But happy holidays, and I like the coordination that's going on. Things getting done.
Ken?
Hate to say this, but being last, there's not much to say. Happy holidays.
We're still out here.
Happy
There's
holidays.
others of us out here.
I'm sorry.
Anita, good to see you.
And I'll just
It's
close
good
by
to be
saying thank
seen.
you all very much. We thank the staff. I can't thank them enough, but the board here is incredible. Thank you. Happy holidays.
I would like to say, I would like to say happy holidays to you all. I apologize for disappearing. It has been a spectacularly challenging year for me. I lost my dad, and I've been dealing with some health issues. So relocating my parents, saying goodbye to my father, it's been quite a year. I'm very happy to say goodbye to 2022. And I'm not going to say the next part about 2023, because I feel like we've been saying that since 2020, and next year will be. So it's good to see you all. I would love to help in any way that I can with affordable housing. Some of you may know, others of you may not know, but that is where my heart lies. So I'm here and I'm back, even though it is the 11th hour, and I look forward to working with all of you in the coming.
Thank you.
Great.
Ruth?
Happy holidays, of course, and I always like to thank the staff for all their hard work. They're not invisible. We see them, and they're a good team. So congratulations on a great year. And I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I thought I'd followed the flu with a little COVID. So next time.
Feel better.
Thanks.
Okay. Motion adjourned.
So me.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? There.
Well, Mark,